Welcome back for all of our listeners, and if you're new here, hello, I'm Kimberly, your host, and this is The Parent Solution, your one-stop shop for all things educational. Today's topic, I wanted to chat about what the school system has been like and the evolution of the school system over the past 100 or so years. So I'm chatting about the school system structure, what it has been in the past, what it is now in the present, and what it holds in the future, and what sorts of things that we as educators and parents can do to shape that future. I wanted to start by talking about what evolutions have been seen thus far from past to present in regards to our school system. So academically, over the past 20 years, we've seen an increase in the drive for academic success. The largest reason for that is because we have a generation or a couple generations that want to stand out for post-secondary institutions. We'll get to the reasoning behind that in just a minute. We also have the matter of standardized testing. Now that is one that has two sides. One in which teachers in certain levels of government have realized the shortcomings of standardized testing. And on the other side, we have the idea that we use standardized testing as just that, standardized testing. We recognize that there is a problem, but we stay with the status quo. So in terms of behavior, we have seen over the past, 30 or 40 years or so, there's been an increase in negative behavioral challenges, or what I like to say are reactions. And those come from a variety of factors, only some of which are school related. So it makes it difficult to gauge accurately where those things might be coming from because every child's home life is different. I often am asked as an educator, where do you think this drive for academic success is coming from, and why is there such an increase in this drive itself? And I would offer my opinion and say that this drive for success academically stems directly from the competitive nature of the world that we live in now. Competitive in the sense of what you might term couch jobs or office jobs that do not have the same negative consequences of being a tradesman. Now that's resulted in a huge shortage of tradesmen and tradeswomen. And you might say, oh, well, why would someone not want to go into the trades? That seems like a great job. Tradesmen get to make their own hours and do their own thing, and they get to be independent. They don't necessarily have a boss. They just maybe have a foreman that they answer to. They get to be physical. Well, that's just it. Tradesman work is dirty. It is loud. It is physical. And there's a huge overhead cost as well that you don't have in an office job or a work from home job. The travel that's involved, the tools that have to be upkept, the fact that you're away from home a lot more than someone who would be if they work from home or they work just a regular 9 to 5 in an office. There's upkeep of certain official documentation, which costs a significant amount of money a year. Hanging on to things like licenses and certificates and operational procedures that have to happen. It's dangerous. Being a tradesman is not necessarily easy work or safe work. It's also not steady work either. So the question is not, why would someone not want to get into the trades? The question is, why would someone want to get into the trades for an additional $5 an hour or $10 an hour, if that, and have to deal with all of the extra stuff and all the extra crap when they can sit at home or in an air-conditioned office and do easier work. Regardless of how advanced we say we are as a society, there is still a stigma around going into the trades. Now it's less than it used to be. Yes, we're all, getting better and improving, I would like to think, but that stigma still remains. And one of the biggest reasons why there's a stigma around going into the trades, I don't think it's because there's less people available, but because nothing about working in a trade is attractive or easy. So the way to quote unquote avoid being quote unquote labeled by the school system for a trade is to excel academically. Now that's a bit of a different conversation around school streaming because tradesmen are some of the smartest people around. It's just a different kind of smarts. So the way to avoid that label of the school system streaming you into, all of the applied courses and all of the hands-on and co-op and things like that is to excel academically so that you can get that degree or that certificate or that diploma. So moving from the present into looking into the future, in my professional opinion, I have a few ideas about where I see our school systems being headed. The way that our world is going, I definitely see a rise in automation with a lot of, like I said earlier, couch jobs. Computer systems are getting smarter by the day, and many things have been automated these days. And I think that there's going to be more focus on AI and on artificial intelligence, particularly when it comes to building and management, as well as tech jobs themselves. On the other hand, I can also see that there's been a definite shift over the last 10 or so years, maybe even the last 5, for a more physical workforce, or a desire for one anyways. And I think that's a counterculture that's risen up over, like I said, the last few years. That brings up the argument that teaching itself can be automated, because after all, you're just learning the same old material, right? Now that's a whole other ballgame with AI and artificial intelligence. I really think that opens up a whole moral and ethical dilemma. You have robots potentially teaching children, and I don't think that that's the way to go, but it doesn't mean that that's not necessarily going to happen or try to come into play. We are definitely, in today's day and age, living in a more technological world. I'd also say that it's a more lazy world, and it's disguised as laziness is disguised as efficiency. So with all this talk of technology and the improvements going on in education, what are some things that parents and educators can do now to shape the future of education? I think connection is more important now than ever. I feel as though building a community of heart-centered individuals is the answer for this one. Building a community that operates as such. That means fostering children's life skills and placing focus and value on connection and human relationships. If you raise 2 generations of children like that, you have a society that will refuse the implementation of AI or of big tech jobs, of impersonalization, really. And mechanization over humanization and over personalization. It is a shift in values that needs to happen for this kind of thing to be possible. And, as parents and educators, we have to lead by example. So I put together 7 tips of my own that I think would be a good starting place for people who are looking to kind of are saying, what do we do about this? How do we make this change? How do we start this movement? So my first thing would be putting connections first, personal and professional. So whether it's in your business life or in your personal life, you have to emphasize the importance of putting connections with other people first. My second thing, don't tell your kids what to do. But teach your children how to do things. When you allow your children the choice to do things, and you allow your children the freedom to choose what they'd like to do, and you teach them not how or not what to do, but how to do things, you're fostering their critical thinking skills, you're fostering their problem solving skills, and most importantly, you're fostering their creativity. You're allowing them to explore different ways of doing things, and I really think that that's important. Right along with that, number 3, let your kids draw their own conclusions. Like I said, that builds their problem-solving skills and their critical thinking skills. There's a saying, I don't know who said it, but there's a saying that you cannot join your child in the water. You have to be the lifeguard. And that's really true. You have to, as hard as it is as a parent, you have to stand back and let them do their own swimming and let them do their own treading water and let them, in some cases, their head's going to dip below the water. You got to be okay with that. As a lifeguard, if you see them sinking, you can jump in and save them, but you've got to let them figure it out on their own while providing, guidance and cheerleading from the sidelines. Tip number 4, limit their tech time and kick them outside. I'm a big believer in placing boundaries, especially on technological things. I don't think it's a good idea to have kids online all the time. It does have its uses. It is a great thing. The internet is fantastic, but you have to be able to kick your kids outside, and they have to be able to have those boundaries in place. Tip number 5, I would say, placing a high value on socializing with others and socializing with others properly. Teaching your children tolerance, not necessarily acceptance, teaching them, social cues, allowing them to socialize with other children so that they understand the social cues that go on in a community. And that teaches them really the value in the support of a community. No man is an island. That's another quote. I don't remember who said that one either, but no man is an island. And, we all need each other to be able to survive in this world. You've got to be able to, even if you don't agree with someone, get along with them. And that's a really, really important skill to teach your kids from young. So leading to tip number 6, teach them to value and respect others and others' boundaries, but also themselves and their own boundaries. Because far too often children get to an age where they just allow themselves to be steamrolled. And that's when things like abuse and programming happen, and grooming for potentially very dangerous situations. Tip number 7, my last one, I would say is more of a holistic one. Encourage them, ask them questions, and have conversations with them. From my own personal experience as an educator, kids are a lot smarter and more intuitive than we give them credit for. You'd be surprised what my students will tell me that I can't imagine they've ever told their parents, simply because it's a bit of a different relationship, right? When kids are given that opportunity to explore different intellectual concepts and explore different things outside of the regular public school curriculum, there's a lot of things that they've got questions about. And it's fantastic to see the curiosity that comes out naturally from a child. There's a quote, and this one I do know, from Benjamin Franklin, I believe. This is where this comes in. It says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." And I really do believe that. It's about involving children in their own learning. That's exactly how you create a society of individuals who desire to go on learning past their public school education, who spend their lives asking questions and wanting to know more. Life is such a short journey. Shouldn't we want to spend it doing things that are worthwhile to us? As a parent, I would think one of those worthwhile things would be to raise a passionate, informed, knowledge-driven learner who lives life to the fullest because they never stop discovering things or learning things or building for the future generations. They never lose that enthusiasm for learning. And I think that is how you build a true society that will last for generations to come. Involvement is key when it comes to our children, period, end of. And it's definitely key with their learning. I think it's really a practical way of looking at life, and the future of our children is really what matters. How we prepare them for the future is up to us as parents and as educators. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of The Parent Solution. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for more scintillating conversation.